Welcome, everyone. Let's get this Monday morning started. Fired up
Excellent.
and ready to.
Ready to. there's the MC making an introduction, going. What was that movie where it's allow myself to introduce myself? Austin Powers. There's Amy doing an Austin Powers. Anyway, you know what? What'll happen to me now? The karma of messing with you is that I'll completely stumble all over myself. So, yeah. Oh well. Looking stupid is what I do well. Well, good morning. This is John Eliason, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, but also congratulations for being here. It's been after maybe for some of us, not me, but maybe some of us, a longer sort of weekend, and it's here in Minnesota. It's cold and dreary. It's April. April showers mean there's clouds, and anyway, so it's like, all right, it's Monday morning. How do we launch into this thing with vim and vigor, and how do you go out and we all have an idea of what we want to achieve here. How much money you want to make, and how do you do that? And we talk a lot these days about three things: alignment, and that's really the reason to get into this business is alignment. You got to be in a position. I mean, if you want freedom, or if you want to make a lot of money, then you have to be in a business where there's money, and you have to be aligned so the money flows to you. Even when you stop working. So, put a big green check mark by that one. Smart you've done it. The next thing is method. It's like, all right, now that I'm in the right place, there's all kinds of opportunity. Yeah, it's just like climbing a mountain. There's some challenges involved too. And you got to be up for the challenge. Then you got to have the right strategy though. It's like back to the mountain analogy. It sure is cool if you can go to the top of the mountain. If you're down at base camp, you go, all right, I want to go to the top. I want to achieve all these things. It'd be really cool if you didn't have to go it alone. If you can go up the mountain with some mountain climbing guides who have been there a lot of times, many, many times, they know the mountain. And thankfully, you're on the right team to be able to have that. And with that, you got to have the right strategy. So you're going up the mountain. How am I doing this? And let's touch base on that because you depending. I know on this call we've got people who've been around here for years and written hundreds and hundreds of accounts, and I get that. And I bet they'll chime in. I hope they will, or I think they'll agree, if nothing else, that there are some mistakes that everybody makes up front. And let's just touch on. I'm going to just touch on one of those today. Just one little thing that you can do to really help you. Understand it in what you do, and maybe be aware. The biggest thing about any sort of, achievement or opportunity or getting from one place to the next where you want to go is just being aware. And by the way, this is, hopefully you have my book. If you don't have my book, let us know. We'll email you an ebook. If you want a hard copy, just go to the website and get it. But this is classic stuff right out of the book. And it's the dump the struggle, double the money part. And it talks about, everybody wants success, but the big question for everyone is, where do you go? Where do I start? How do I target? What do I do? And you see people, and we talk clearly, obviously, we talk going to warm market. Not for everything. I mean, you could, but we really suggest starting there because it's low-hanging fruit. They're easy, and they should be. You should already have some sort of rapport and relationship with them, or you should be a patron. And they just they cut you a little more slack being new with something than would a big corporate deal. And if you go into them knowing, or I guess knowing, having confidence that we are going to do the right thing for your person in your warm market, then excellent. Definitely go to the warm market. Is Brian on the phone by chance?
Yes, I am.
Brian. Hey, Brian. Morning.
Good morning.
And I hope it's cool if can I use you as an example?
Oh yeah.
So Brian and I haven't talked about this before, but so when Brian started a handful of years ago, he went out to people in his town. He lives in a smaller sort of town. 8,500 people in Iowa.
Yep.
Okay. So Brian's in this town with 8,500 people, and he's got some contacts. Brian used to have a garage, a mechanic shop in town, right?
Yep.
And not I mean, it was a decent sized operation, right? I mean, 6 bays. I mean, it was a hopping place. So by virtue of that, by nature of that, he did a good job for people, and he had a good reputation around town. So what he did is he went to his warm market, and anyway, this is wrong, Brian. Please clarify. But so he went out to his warm market, and he went from like one side of town to the other, and he got to the other end of town, and he goes, what do I do now? I've talked to everybody I know. He'd written, how many accounts had you written by about that time?
Oh, probably about 60.
Right, that's exactly the number I was thinking of. So, which is a lot for a warm market. So most people don't write 60 in their warm market, at least the first tier warm market. But Brian is well connected. He wrote 60 accounts in his little town, kind of here and there. So he wrote a lot of business. But nonetheless, if Brian would have stopped at 60 accounts is not the top of the hill. And just kind of and before we go any far, I'll fill in the detail. But how many accounts have you written now?
Over 600.
Over 600, which is so it's an interest. So there's a trick, not a trick, but there's a technique from whether you write 2 in your warm market and then go, I've written everybody that I know, or if you write 60, because 60 is really, honestly, is probably the greatest number I've ever heard in a warm market writing. Most guys go out and most guys and gals, they'll go out and write a couple right away, and then they'll dribble a few in over a little bit more time. And it doesn't matter if you're in First Financial or if you're selling insurance or financial stuff, I mean investments or some network marketing gig or whatever. Anytime you go to a warm market, this is the mistake that everybody makes, is that they look at their warm market as kind of one-dimensional or flat, or whatever's in there is whatever's in there. The mistake everybody makes is not understanding where the real value of your warm market is, because it's not the first 2 or 3 or 5 or 60. It's all those people's contacts. So think of it as tier 2, because if you read my book Rewire: How to Grow Business in a Crazy World and Have a Great Time Doing It, it'll show you how to go to warm market, cold market, how to use advertising, how to deal with networking groups, those sorts of things. But what it really focuses on is building what I call a massive referral network. And if you do that, you really don't have to do anything else. And it's the way that the biggest, I don't know if anybody else in this call is the same way, but the biggest accounts I've ever written, the most profitable accounts I've ever written, are accounts that I didn't approach. They approached me because I heard that I did this. They were referrals. And in a lot of those accounts, I would have never even known that they existed, or I wouldn't have known how to get into them to talk to them unless I had some sort of referral network building. So when we go to our warm market, keep in mind that the mistake everybody makes is that they really hit the end of their warm market and their business comes to a grinding halt and they're done. It's a common thing. Millions of people all over the country have done it, and they continue to do it. But you don't have to. If you look at everybody who's in your warm market as tier 1, you get a couple sales now, a few more down the road, and those all those people in your warm market are either prospects or referrers. So if you think of, they say that the number of people that you can, like friends, like close friends that you can have, social scientists say or psychologists say about 150. I think it's like 148, 149. They continue the debate. I don't know. But 148, 149, we'll round it off as 150. And as far as other acquaintances, you can have, most people have about, a few more hundred. They have a total of about maybe 600 people that they're either, the core 150 is the most you can be friends with because that's how your brain operates. But acquaintances and people you know and people you've run across are about 600. So if you think, and let's just go with 150. If you've got 150 people that you know, and you go, okay, well, maybe 10% of those, maybe 15% are those people that are buyers, maybe even less. Maybe there's 10 people in my warm market that buy what I sell or even have a chance. So if we approach those 10 as prospects, but also think about them as beyond being a prospect, who else do they know? Now, you've got 10 people with 150 contacts. Okay, so maybe only 10 of those. But now you've got 100 more people to contact, where most people would have just simply run to the end of their network. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and that sounds like Cam. Thanks, Cam.
It does.
But let's back up, because what happens to the other? If you've got 150, 10 are targets for what we do. You've got 140 other people in your network, and all those 140 people probably also have 150 connections, of which about 10 might be good connections for you. So if you've got those other 140 people that might have 10, what's 140 times 10? About 1,400. So now you went from having what most people. So let's just think about that. And if you draw it up on draw this little diagram, or if help yourself out, write this down. Because if you've got a network of close folk, friends, whatever, that are 150, but you've only got 10 of those that are prospects. And again, if those 10 have 10, then you've got 100 that you can go to rather than 10. When most people in this world will go to the 10, they'll pick up a couple right away, a couple others will dribble in, and that's where they stop, and that's where business comes to a grinding halt, and they go, that warm marketing doesn't work. And that's the mistake everybody makes. And there's just not enough business in the warm market, the way that they approach it, to have that as a viable way to market. But if we go, okay, I've got 10, they've got 10, how can I be savvy enough here to ask the right questions to get into those other 100 that are really high quality prospects, and then also those that I contact, whether they say yes or no, how can I ask them? Because now we're at 1,000 high quality prospects. It's not tier 1, it's tier 2, tier 3, and so on and so forth, and that's how you build that network. But then also, let's go back to this other part where there's 140 that are not good prospects for you, who probably do have 10 people that they know. What about my mom? I'll use my dad. My dad is a great example. He's retired. He lives in a little town up in northern Minnesota. He doesn't accept cards, never will accept cards. So he's not a prospect, but he knows everybody in town. Everybody in town, and everybody knows him, and he's got good credibility. So if I get a hold of him and I say, and this is exactly how I'd say it, and write this down, because there's a way to do it right. There's about 1.5 ways to do it right, and then every other version I hear of it isn't quite as good. So here's the best way I've ever heard. So if I'm talking to my dad, I go, hey, Dad, I just started a new career in the Visa MasterCard business, and I go, hey, you've got friends, you've got buddies who own businesses, don't you? And he goes, yeah. And I said, some of those buddies that own business, I kind of feel like like an attorney or so. Bear with me, but if you segment it down, if you break it down, it really works slick. So, Dad had just started a new career in the Visa MasterCard business. Hey, you've got buddies who own businesses, don't you? I wait for him to say yes, and he goes, yeah. And then I go, hey, those buddies that are in business, some of them accept credit cards, don't they? And he'll say, yeah. And I go, hey, who do you know, buddies in business that accept cards that might give me a listen? And that's all I say. And then because if I give him more information, do you know what happens?
He'll start qualifying them for you.
Yes, which is a big mistake because he doesn't even know what the hell I'm after. So, and what he'll do is he'll call his buddies and go, hey, you know what, my son John is in the Visa MasterCard business. They do merchant accounts, and he can get you a better program than you've got now. I know it. And they'll go, oh, God, how many 100 million times have I heard this story before? You know what, I'm good. Hey, really appreciate it. So you don't do that. You just go, hey, who'd give me a listen? And then he'd go, well, I'm sure that Jim, Bob, Frank, Daryl, whatever, they would give you a listen. I go, great. Can you just give him a jingle and tell him I'm going to call him? And then he's out. And what happened in that little town, by the way, is now when you drive into the little town, we had about 75% of probably 65, 2/3 of all the businesses in that little town. If you spend money there, we're going to make money off of it. So he's one of my 140. My mom also, she helped get into a chain of newspapers. I don't think there's like 75 of them or something like that, and then a lot of other accounts too. So there's my sisters. I've got 2 sisters. Both have referred business to me. So there's all these people who are not are not candidates, are not prospects for what it is you do, but they know as many people as you do. And so you got to ask yourself, well, how can I, in a savvy, cool sort of way, how do I tap into that? And that's how you do it. And so the value of warm market isn't tier 1. It's okay, it gets you started, but the real value is looking at warm market, segmenting into prospects, following that down, getting referrals, and then having a good system to follow up. It's just I know I'm getting beyond, but how do you follow up them? How do you track them, and that sort of thing. But the big thing is just doing it. And most people don't ever do it because they just don't. They've never been taught that little technique, which, by the way, is in the book. And if you don't have a copy, we'll send you an ebook. And this, by the way, it starts on page 26, 27, 29, and 46. And then, of course, there's other things all around it. But that's where it is in the book. And it'll give you the words. It'll talk about exactly what I just talked about. But questions about that or questions, what about that didn't make sense? Something I could clarify? Or I'd love to hear how I've heard Cam, I've heard Brian. I know Cam landed is into an association deal. I do believe because of a buddy, not one that a buddy. Brian, feel free either one of you guys to jump in and color in anything that didn't make sense. Or does anybody have questions for those guys or me about how you actually do it, or what you say, or what part is foggy, or don't you understand, or some sort of anything that we can help you with?
Well, on the one that you talked about, John, I had a very good buddy who I played golf with, who has 2 very successful optometry practices. And when I called on him and wrote him up, he said to me, Cam, you ought to call on our association, because what they do for us is they provide us with real good member benefits and things that help the members in their businesses. And we've got a new executive director who's just moved down here from New Jersey. He ran that particular association, and you ought to give him a call. So I did, and the guy said, you must be telepathic, because I want to do this for Georgia, and I'm already talking to the company that I dealt with in New Jersey. When could you come see me? And so I said, well, how about tomorrow? And that's where it got started.
So here's the guy that you were talking to him about getting his business, and he referred you on, and he probably,
That's right.
I don't know how the conversation went, but you probably have some sort of credibility with the guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important in a warm market. If you spent your life being not credible, warm market's a tough road to hoe. But if you've been playing your cards right, here's a way to continue to play your cards right, and it really works pretty slick, huh? And then what happened to Cam, if I might jump in there, is I think did he get New Jersey then too? I mean, not only did he get the state of Georgia,
I got his old state, yeah.
And then
and what he did is that he invited us to see if we would sponsor a dinner in Chicago for the whole entire network of the state associations, And Chuck and I went to that particular meeting, and he said, you know, if you just get one more state, it'll be worth that investment that you made on this dinner. And we signed up 5.
So 5 state associations. How many merchants are there in those associations?
They average, John, about 500 to about 500 and doctors who are real prospects. They own their own practices.
Yeah, 25. So that's a nice way to go. So there's a little different spin on it. There's where we talk about targeting what I call multiples. How to target one sale, we'll call it, and have that trigger a lot of other things going down. But if you think of each person that you talk to as a multiple, this is one of the classic sales mistakes, business building mistakes, we'll call it. People just don't. Typically, the common mistake is not thinking beyond the person that you're talking to. You of course you want to do your best to get them and provide them with all the best things for them. But in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, I wonder who this person knows. Like Brian calls it connecting the dots. Who knows this person, who knows that person, who knows that person. So here's and if you want to feel free and chime in on that one, Brian. And
well, I wasn't very good at it at the beginning. I can tell you that. Because back to the warm market, I, being in this small town, ignorant as I was, I just assumed that I knew everybody they knew. I didn't ask. And after 60 accounts, it just came to a grinding halt. There was just nothing going on because I had made a terrible error by assuming that everybody I knew who they knew, which was completely wrong.
So what'd you do then? And I remember we talked. I remember the conversation, and I remember it clearly. I remember where I was standing, when we had this conversation, and because I gone, okay. Because when Brian started, he went out. He started writing accounts, and what happens with, a lot of people figure they've got the deal knitted. You hear the words he used. I assumed that I knew, and sometimes
that was so wrong.
Yeah, and most of us, until we get there, we really don't know. And Brian is right in business, man. He's stacking them on. He's feeling good about it. He's going, yeah, I'm writing these. I've got all these deals in the hopper. And then all of a sudden it came to an end, and he goes, there's something to the effect of, now I know why you were talking earlier about why I should be doing this. But so if you do what Brian did, it's clearly his world didn't come crashing down. But when things came to, like you said, a grinding halt, what did you do? I mean, we had a conversation. You're going, dude, it's come to a grinding halt. What do I do? Is kind of basically what your words were.
Yeah, it was a moment of slight panic, but broke out the give back because I was like, okay. I got the give back. I went back to every single one that I had written, and I said, hey, we have this program, because none of them were on it. I never used it because I just knew them.
Right. So let's cue that up for everybody who's listening, because Brian hits into his warm market. He doesn't know what to do. So what do? You go back to the people saying, you got a couple of choices.
Well, I brought them the give back. I asked them where they would want to give. It's not going to cost you any more money at all. Okay, we're just going to donate. Where would you like me to donate it to? And they would give me whoever, charity that they liked, and then, by the way, I would ask them, do you know anybody else who is passionate about this organization as well? And then you can also ask them who else they know that has businesses, but, and then you can go after that. But when you have this donation, you have to figure out where to send the check. So you call the charity and say, explain the program and say, where do we send the money? Who do I talk to about, giving you this money? And those people are great referrers as well. And it broke back open. It broke stuff wide open again, and it really hasn't stopped since.
Yeah. Does that make sense to everybody? Because like Brian said, those are good referrers too. you go back to the merchant and go, hey, we've got this give back. Because if you hit the end of your warm market and you talk to everybody, then you go, all right, what do I do now? Do I have to go cold calling, or what should I do? I would say no. Let's try something. Let's test something else first. One is you can go back to the people that you've written, and you've got a couple choices. You go, hey, is everything cool? Who else do you know that would like to get service like I've provided? So there's a straight up just referral. Well, like Brian did, he put the give back spin on it, and hopefully you know what the give back is and know how to use it. and so Brian decided to go with the give back and go after the merchants, the nonprofit supporters. So he went about it. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about this. And both are effective. Clearly Brian has gone off and written 650 accounts, give or take, from coming to a grinding halt at 60. Cam, I don't know how many he's written, but he's written a bunch. Yes. And he's queued up and he consistently streams business in as he's going through his 2,500. And there's other examples of guys who get into other sorts of networks. And when you get into whether it's a WARM network, a business association, supporters of a cause, it shifts. Would you guys say it's? I mean, you don't. Is it Brian and Cam? Is it easier or harder to get business like that than other ways you've tested?
It's much easier.
It's much easier. It's like night and day, isn't it? And it's,
yeah, exactly.
And so it's interesting when I'll do different sets of calls, and I'll get questions like, well, how many people do I need to talk to? How many people do I need to talk to get one merchant? And I'm going, well, I guess if you go about it the old-fashioned way of you're going to have to talk to a lot. If you go after things a little more savvy, you don't have to talk to many, and you can make your life so much easier. It's like, the name of the book, Rewire, How to Grow Business in a Crazy World and Have a Great Time Doing It. It's these things where you don't have to go about getting business like you've been taught in the past. Like when I got into this business, I know some of you have heard the story 1,000 times, but it was called Flyer Friday. It sucked. It was horrible. It was like I'd rather take a ball-peen hammer to my forehead. It's like, they give you they don't give you got to go out to like Kinko's or whatever they call themselves today. Wherever you want to get 100 flyers on Thursday night and Friday morning or Friday all day. You go door to door and talk to businesses and see if you can't rustle something up. And it's like, man, that's just, wouldn't it be nicer to granted, you might not have a huge warm market, but you get a couple accounts, and it's who do you know? And who do the people that are in your warm market that aren't prospects, who do they know? And it's just like Brian, I brought Brian into this by using something that he says a lot. It's just connecting the dots. And it's interesting. You can get so deep. I mean, you can connect those dots pretty fast. I can make, how many calls can I make to ask, say if I write a merchant and I ask for a referral, I call them and we're in process and I go, hey, who do you know that would also like to support whatever? You can get awfully deep into networks and groups and that sort of thing with a much warmer kind of connection value than you could if you walked the streets of any town with flyers.
Oh, it'll take you miles deeper than flyers. I mean, light years deeper than flyers.
Yeah.
It's what you were taught. Now you can look back at that and go, well, I'm glad I had to do that. Now I know much it sucked, but it's
true.
An awful thing. An awful thing.
It's an awful thing. Right. And then you ask yourself, you go, man, I really love the business, but there's got to be a better way. And I think it's page 20 of my book. I asked it. It's an Einstein. It's like, how do you ask yourself questions that help you get different results? And mine was, how do I double what I'm doing, working no more than I'm working now, and have a good time doing it? And questions like that, or questions like I'm sure Brian asked himself, like, all right, how do I go back into this and reconnect with my merchants in a cool way so they give me referrals? And then, it's like, I'll go back to the give back. Perfect. Or like Cam, all right, how do I all right, how do I get this guy that's my optometrist or a friend who is an optometrist? And it's like, okay, so he's queuing me up for this. How do I get Georgia? How do I get more than Georgia? How do I talk Chuck into going to Chicago and pitching this deal with me to all these people so I can get 5 states? Yeah, and anyway, so but for some of us, we're newer. So Cam's got a great thing going. Brian's got a great thing going. A lot of guys have a great thing going. What about people, you guys who are new? Does this make sense? Are there questions that you have, or things that don't understand, or bottlenecks, or things that you're running into right now? Anything. It can be anything. We can open it up for any sort of conversation that you might need or color that you're missing. And if there's not, that's cool. I hope acceleration is beneficial to you. And talk to your director. And Cam, thank you for being here. Brian, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. What a cool thing. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Terrence, and I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And I went in.
There's no hope for you if you're in that town.
I appreciate that.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. That's cool. I love the humor. I went into there's a small town here, and they have their own city hall and everything. And I went in and I talked to their city clerk because I know him. I've known him for like 20 years, and he said that they're already with First Data. So I just told him, I said, well, that's cool. I said, just get the statements. I said, and my underwriters will kind of see, what we can work out for you. So he just kind of said okay to that. I'm going to follow up with him today. But if somebody's already with First Data, does that mean anything in particular?
No, it doesn't.
Not really.
It means he's a good prospect.
Right. And that was Brian and Cam chiming in, who have together written about 1,000 accounts. So that's their answer.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that response. You said it's what now?
I think Brian chimed in, then Cam. So Brian,
no, it doesn't really make any difference if they're already with First Data, because it's a little, especially if you're new, kind of hard to make it make sense. But it doesn't mean that First Data can't give them any better deal really than we can. Okay, it just depends on who put the deal together that they have right now. First Data doesn't have a one-size-fits-all pricing program. They could be getting a horrible deal and still be a First Data customer. It just depends on who wrote it.
Okay. And my response to him, just being new, I just said, "Oh, man, that sounds good." So I just need to get the statements, and and I just kind of went from there. I don't remember the exact words.
Well, and you did it. You did it really well, because even if they say they're getting it for free, you should always say, well, we should really take a look at that. Because
Brian,
99% of the time they don't know what they're paying.
I got you. Okay.
What Brian just said is the classic, exact right words. Where Brian said you did.
Well, I got them from you, John. That's why.
but thank God, Brian used it. But what he said was he planted a seed of doubt. He goes, "Oh man, we should really take a look at that." And you played it pretty close to what Brian just said. The best, if you could make it.
You did it great without even knowing it.
Yeah. Smart you. Good job, man.
Well, thank you. So, but okay, so you said, we should really take a look at that. Put some doubt in there.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Oh, and you say it like that and practice in front of a mirror. Oh, we should really take a look at that. Not like, oh my God, we should pause. Yeah, right.
Okay.
We should really take a look at it. You're an actor, you just practice your lines. But you did, man. I agree with Brian.
We should really take a look at that kind of a thing, and it works well.
And Terrence, you can tell him that we work with a lot of municipalities. That we're in that business.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to follow up with him today to get the statements, and and just to give a good old shout out for Bill Swindlehurst. He's been a great coach. So I don't know if he's on the phone or not, but he's been a great coach. So very cool.
Did he just text you to say that? Because I
of course he did. I would have thought about it by myself.
I always tell those guys, man, you know what's going to make you look good? Get a shout out from one of your people. And so he did. He did the right thing. You'll get the big gold star. Good. Anybody else? That was a great question. I think of Montgomery, and I don't know if it makes any sense. I was trying to put together a deal with their Chamber of Commerce down there, but I forget which bank they were really tight with, and I don't know after all the bank changes. It was Regions. Is Regions still around down there?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah. Regions is real big in Alabama, and they actually have a pretty strong merchant program. I bank with Regions, and I just went in and asked them about it. But I'm going to see if I can get a name of somebody high up, and then I'll just pass it on to you guys, and you can come down here and knock it out.
Well, I already know the guys. And the thing was that doing the deal with the Chamber, Regions contributes like $50,000 a year to the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce every year. So it's like, I think we're gonna, we can't, I don't care if you can, Anyway, that was. But I was thinking about. I just want to know if Regions is still around, because if they've been bought up and gone, then we could have an opportunity to get into the Chamber of Commerce. But there's a lot of different things you can get into. Like Brian does a lot of joint venture stuff. Cam gets into associations. There's a lot of, as you get a little more experience, be thinking about groups that we can get a hold of. Chamber of Commerce usually isn't a good target to get the Chamber of Commerce necessarily, but to get in and be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and then it's expected that everybody in the chamber is open to talking to everybody in the chamber about what they sell. So it's always a good place to start, or a good place to be involved in, I think. It gives you, I wouldn't say it's not a warm market to go to. It's a little cooler market to go to than that, but you're a member, so they're open to, you become open to each other but by joining, then those people all have 150 connections just like you do outside of the chamber, and that's where people that join the chamber, they join the chamber and they always get a couple clients out of chamber members. But what they almost always miss is the chamber members market, and I always think about that. And if you want to read more about it, grab my book. Everybody gets a free version, the ebook. If you want a hard copy, just get one. But pages 26, 27, 29, and 46, the whole section in there really talks about this sort of thing, and it really is good. I shouldn't say that because I'm the author and I'm supposed to say that, but I'll go back to one of the things Brian said. He goes, "Well, I use those words because those are words that he learned from this process, this system." So it really does. It does work pretty well. I feel confident saying that, Anyway, I would hope that you'd use it as a tool, and that's what I wrote it for. I didn't write the book to make money, honestly. I wrote it to be able to give, because I discovered some things that worked a hell of a lot better than what the rest of the world taught me, and it's what we run on here, and I give that to you as a gift for being part of the team. So I hope that you use it in the spirit in which it's given, and I'm glad you're here. I'm appreciative, man, all the things you guys do, and Cam, thank you for being here and contributing. It's so valuable. Brian, same, man. Thank you so very completely, you guys, for being here. And I heard Chad chime in. Thank you, Chad. And our new buddy down in Montgomery, who's gonna get the municipality deal. So what do they call Montgomery? The Gump? Isn't that what it's called? Anyway. So I think that's what it's called. Montgomery is a bend in the river. I think bend in the river. I think that's where Forrest Gump came from. He's from Alabama, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's Birmingham. I'm in Birmingham, but I'm going to go down to Montgomery and Huntsville. So.
Yes, right, wrong town. All right, thank you everybody for being here. We'll see you next Monday in Acceleration. Until then, I look forward to seeing a lot of business with your name on it. If there's anything, talk to your directors all day, every day. Give us a jingle. Let us know what we can do to help you get to all the things that you want to achieve here. Because you've got the alignment right, kick in that right method, and use the team, and it all comes together the way you want it to. So thank you very much. Talk to you all soon.